We were at that restaurant with the leather booths and the wall-length mirror that made every table feel like a stage. It was Ethan's idea, naturally. "Let's celebrate," he'd said. "Big win." He meant the contract I closed last week, though no one dared say it that way. Ethan didn't write the code. He didn't pitch the client. But the account was opened in the family name, so he gets to wear the crown. They let me sit at the head of the table. A subtle cruelty. The illusion of honor. From there I could see all their faces. Cindy's half-smile, carefully measured. My stepdaughter Paige scrolling her phone between courses, trying to look important. And Ethan grinning, flushed, basking in approval that he hadn't earned. I paid for the wine. I chose the venue. I even held the damn door open on the way in. None of it mattered. Midway through the meal, after the ribeye and just before dessert, Ethan stood up. Raised his glass with that swagger I've watched grow in him for years, Josh's swagger. He only calls him Dad when it serves him, but tonight he sharpened the knife. "To Josh," Ethan said. "To the man who taught me how to think like a winner." He looked right at me when he said it. No hesitation. The words were chosen. Meant. Cindy let out a little laugh. That performative kind that women use to keep things pretty. "Ethan just handled the paperwork," she added, tapping his arm like he was a prodigy. Josh was the real inspiration. I waited for someone to correct it, for Paige to glance my way, for Cindy to say, "I'm kidding, obviously." Something, anything, nothing. Just the slow clink of glasses. Toasts to a ghost. And then the sound of Paige's phone camera capturing the moment. They had erased me. I finished my steak. Every bite was ash. I didn't speak. Didn't argue. Just chewed and swallowed. One more indignity carved up and digested. Then I stood. Napkin folded. Chair eased back without a sound. No goodbye. No explanation. Just absence. I walked out past the maitre d', past the rows of smiling strangers, out into the cold night air where the truth finally breathed. I sat in my car for a long time before I drove home. The dashboard clock blinked. I watched the hour pass. I wasn't angry. Not in the way they'd expect. Anger is simple. It burns hot, quick. But this wasn't that. This was something colder. Something settled. Not rage. Not sadness. Not shock. Recognition. I saw the truth, finally. Not all at once, but as a slow wave washing through me. The pattern was always there. I just refused to trace it. The house we lived in, bought in my name with my savings, back when Cindy still smiled when I walked into a room. When she still reached for my hand without looking over her shoulder first. It was meant to be ours. A fresh start. I remember sanding the banister myself the first night we moved in. While Ethan and Paige sat on the couch, I carried up 2 flights of stairs. They didn't even thank me. Cindy just said, "You're handy. That's good." The SUV Ethan drives now, the one with the tinted windows and the Bluetooth system he brags about to his friends. That lease is under my account. I made the payments. Every one. He filled it with fast food wrappers and scratches from dates he doesn't tell Cindy about. The company they brag about? That thing they call the family business? It was mine. Built from scraps of code written between graveyard shifts and freelance contracts I took just to keep our insurance paid. I built it from a project no one believed in, least of all Ethan. I remember him calling it Dad's little computer hobby. Now it funds his lifestyle. Paige tells her friends it's our tech brand. Cindy says it took all of us to make it work. I still have the first draft of the database schema in a folder marked Midnight Builds. Cindy was asleep the night I wrote it. Paige was at a sleepover. Ethan was gaming with his headset on, shouting at strangers through a screen. And me? I was building the thing they all live off now. They forgot that. No, they didn't forget. They chose to forget. And Cindy, she let them. She watched them write me out and didn't lift a finger. That was the part that stuck in my throat. Not the toast. Not the smirk. Not even the name Josh. It was the silence. The quiet confirmation. The consent. I lay in bed that night with my back to her. She didn't reach for me. She never does anymore. Her breathing was even. Peaceful. Maybe she was dreaming about Josh, the man she divorced but never corrected in memory. He gets to be the myth, the legend, the father. I get to be the checkbook. The ceiling above me felt like it was pressing down. I turned my head and looked at the wall where my old diploma hung. A degree I earned before I ever met them. Before I ever gave up sleep and sanity for a family that would one day pretend I was just the guy who handled paperwork. I thought of leaving that night, just getting up and walking away. But I didn't. Not because I was afraid. Not because I hoped it would get better. But because I wanted to see what would happen when I stopped holding them up. I lay there for hours, staring into the dark, while the weight of 16 years settled on my chest. They called it a win. They raised a toast. But I was the cost. Morning came like it always does, without apology. I got up before anyone else. Same habit I've had for years. House quiet, air cold, the floorboards creaking like reluctant confessions. I made coffee in the old French press Cindy bought during our first year together. Back when gestures still meant something. Back before every shared space in this house became something I rented with effort. The roast was bitter. I didn't mind. I brought the mug to my desk, opened my laptop, and signed into the back end of the company. The one they now call theirs. It still bore the branding Paige designed. She always wanted it to look expensive, modern, like it was made by people with generational wealth and clean hands. But the guts of it, the actual structure, the heartbeat beneath the gloss, that was mine. I clicked through tabs like I was flipping through memories. Admin accounts, payment processors, Stripe dashboards, PayPal API keys. I had built redundancies into everything. Security protocols. Fallback routines. I gave it integrity. The kind you can't see but feel when nothing breaks. I hadn't planned to take anything. Not at first. But as I stared at the screen, a slow, deliberate thought began to form. Not a scream. Not revenge. Just precision. Just balance. They had made their decision. Now I would make mine. I started with the payment systems. 2 clicks and Ethan's card was gone. Paige's card vanished. Their sub-accounts, the ones they used to authorize vendor payouts, refunds, subscription tiers, all revoked. No warning. No explanation. Then the payroll schedule. I didn't touch the contractors. They weren't part of this rot. But Ethan's salary. A vanity draw to make him feel like an executive that got paused. Not canceled. Just paused, indefinitely. Paige's consulting retainer. Cut. They wanted the crown without the weight. I let them wear it. But I took the floor out from beneath their feet. By noon, the silence started to break. Paige was first. She barged into the home office, waving her phone like it was a crucifix and I was the devil. Something's wrong with the site, she snapped. We've got subscribers complaining about failed renewals. I tried running a test transaction, it bounced. What's going on? I didn't look up from the screen. I removed your card. Her face twisted. What? You don't have admin rights anymore. You never did. You just had access because I gave it to you. Now I'm taking it back. She scoffed. Are you serious? You're going to jeopardize the company over a stupid dinner toast? No, I said, still typing. I'm just correcting an oversight. I forgot whose name was on the legal documents. I remembered this morning. She stormed out. 15 minutes later, the phone started ringing upstairs. I didn't answer. Then it was Cindy. She appeared in the doorway like she owned the place. No knock, no hello, just posture. Are you trying to make a point? She asked. I closed my laptop and leaned back. No, I'm making a correction. What does that mean? It means you've all been living in a house you didn't pay for, driving cars registered in my name, running a company built on my back, and now you're confused because I stopped pretending that wasn't true. Her mouth opened, closed. She blinked. You're doing this because Ethan made a toast? I'm doing this because it was never a toast. It was the truth. You've all been saying it for years, just not out loud. Now I believe you. She stepped forward, voice low, pleading. You're hurting your own family. I looked at her. Really looked. This isn't my family, I said. This is a group of people who benefit from my labor and resent my presence. A family wouldn't mock the man who built their foundation. A family wouldn't celebrate someone else while stepping over the one who stayed. She folded her arms. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I'm being honest. The silence between us felt surgical. She didn't argue. She just stood there waiting for me to break first. I didn't. Eventually she left. By late afternoon, Ethan called. I let it go to voicemail. Then he texted, "What the hell is going on? I can't log into admin stripes down. PayPal too. Fix this now." I didn't reply. Then another. "We have pending shipments. This is time sensitive. Are you trying to tank everything?" Still nothing. I waited until the fifth message. "You're not thinking clearly. This isn't just your company. It's ours. You can't just cut us out." That one made me laugh. So I answered with the truth. "You told the truth at dinner. You said it was your real dad who made you who you are." Cindy agreed. Paige nodded. So I took my name off the things that clearly weren't mine. No reply for an hour. Then this one. "You're a child." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the logs. System traffic was already slowing. Transactions failed. Refunds queued with no one to process them. Orders frozen. That evening, I shut down the server integrations. The website still worked, sort of. The pretty front page, the About Us section, the story they like to tell. All still there. But the pipes beneath it? The engine? Dead. I didn't take anything from them. I just stopped giving. Later that night, Cindy came back into the office. This time, no attitude. Just a question. "Are you leaving us?" I looked at her. Tired. Spent. "No," I said. "I'm just letting you feel what it's like when I do." She stood in the doorway, unsure whether to cry or scream. Then she did neither. She just walked away. That night, I sat in the garage with the light off and the engine cold. Just thinking. Not about revenge. Not even about justice. I thought about value. About what it means to give yourself to a thing for years and then watch it forget you. I thought about invisibility. About how easy it is to erase someone when their hands are always busy building something for others. They had raised a glass to Josh. Josh who left. Josh who abandoned the responsibilities I had carried like weights under my ribs. Josh who now lives in some apartment paid for by a woman half his age, while I spent the last decade holding up the ceiling over his children's heads. But he was the hero. I was the paperwork. And so now I gave them the gift of truth. I disconnected the wires. I stopped paying the light bill of their delusions. And the darkness was coming for them. The next morning, the panic began in earnest. Started with Paige. She burst into the kitchen barefoot, holding her laptop like it had betrayed her. Her voice pitched high, not angry, just rattled. "Why is the dashboard blank?" She aimed the screen at me like it proved something, as if her outrage could overwrite the truth staring back at her. Blank analytics. 0 orders. Frozen payouts. I sipped my coffee. Didn't even blink. Because there's nothing left to measure. She didn't get it at first. She thought it was a glitch. Something temporary. Something fixable with a phone call or a restart. Then Ethan came down, slower, jaw set. Not confusion on his face, rage. Real, burning, entitled rage. "What did you do?" I set the mug down, wiped the rim with a napkin. "I reclaimed what was mine." "You shut everything down." "No," I said. "I just stopped holding it up." He pulled out a chair like he meant to sit but stayed standing. His hands twitched against the backrest. He was trying to keep control, trying not to explode. But I could see it, the panic beneath the posture. "You're going to ruin us." I looked at him, really looked. The suit jacket he wore, the watch on his wrist, the phone in his hand. All funded by the man he just demoted to paperwork. "No," I said. "You did that when you told a room full of people that someone else made you who you are." His nostrils flared. "It was a toast. It was a truth," I said. "And I believed you." Cindy came in next. Pajamas, bare feet, her hair pulled back into a messy knot. She must have heard the tension from upstairs. Her voice was hushed, like we were all just one calm conversation away from fixing it. "Can we please talk? Just us?" I shook my head. "No more talks. No more negotiations. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is accounting. Accounting? Yes, I said. The years I gave. The nights I stayed up writing code while you slept. The holidays I worked through so Paige could get braces. The equity I assigned to you all out of love. You spent it. Every cent. And now the account is empty. She stepped closer. You're punishing them. For being young. For saying something stupid. I'm not punishing them, I said, standing up. I'm finally listening to them. Then I left the room. Later that day, I received a notification. One of our merchant accounts had been flagged. The system auto-paused after failing to validate active admins. Stripe shut down access. PayPal too. Shopify's backend sent an error log that read like a death sentence. The foundation was crumbling. That evening, Ethan posted a story on the company's social media, still trying to spin, still pretending everything was fine. Quick tech hiccup, he wrote. We're fixing it. Thanks for your patience. But the comments piled in. Why are my orders delayed? 3 charges, no product. You guys going out of business or what? Paige tried answering them one by one. I watched from the shadows, my admin account still active, invisible, surgical. I watched them flail. Watched them drown in the thing they thought they owned. I got an email from our largest supplier that night. They were pulling out of the contract. Too many missed payments. Too much uncertainty. Our discount tier was revoked. Ethan found out 5 minutes later. He texted Cindy. She came down in tears. They're just scared, she said. They don't understand the business the way you do. Can't you at least help stabilize it? I looked at her, really looked. You mean like I've been doing for the last 7 years? She didn't answer. Like when I covered the entire product migration out of pocket. Or when I patched Ethan's security leak before a client noticed. Or when I rewrote your entire backend myself twice, because the developers you hired couldn't deliver. She folded her arms like armor. That's not fair. No, I said, stepping closer. What's not fair is watching a man who abandoned his children be raised like a saint while the man who stayed is turned into furniture. Her mouth opened, closed. She had no reply. Josh. That name had become a ghost in this house. Sometimes spoken, sometimes just implied. Always casting a shadow. Always welcome in memory, never in consequence. The next day, I got a text from him. Josh, what the hell did you do? Ethan says everything's falling apart. I didn't respond. Then again, my accounts were linked to the payment system. I'm losing clients. You can't just shut this down. There it was. The bloodline leech. I'd forgotten he had quietly tied his own little side hustle into our infrastructure last year. Through Ethan, of course. A favor to help him rebuild. A little legacy line, siphoning off my labor while pretending he was making a comeback. I wrote him one line. Ask your son to fix it. He says you taught him everything. He didn't text again. Later that night, Cindy came into the office again. This time slower, softer. The kind of entrance you make when you're not sure if you still have permission. You're hurting them, she said. I didn't look up from the screen. They're hurting themselves, I said. I just removed the safety net. They're not ready for this. Then they shouldn't have pretended they built it. They're still your family. No, I said, turning to face her. They were my responsibility, but they were never my family. Not really. The silence stretched between us. Her eyes watered. Her lips quivered. I didn't mean to erase you, she whispered. But you didn't stop them when they did. That was the moment. The moment I knew she saw it. Not just the damage, but the structure that made it possible. Her silence. Her ease. Her willingness to let them cast me as the benefactor but never the father. She turned and left without a word. That night, I deactivated the last failsafe in the system. The emergency override. The backdoor I'd kept just in case they needed help one day. Closed it. For good. The next morning, Ethan didn't come downstairs. Paige skipped her morning call with the design team. Cindy stayed in the bedroom. The house was quiet. Too quiet. But not peaceful. Just empty. like a temple to a forgotten god. And in that stillness I felt it, not revenge, not triumph, just equilibrium. The weight of unspoken sacrifice finally lifted. They had made their choice, and I had made mine. Saturday arrived with no fanfare, no coffee brewing, no phones buzzing, no click of laptop keys from the upstairs study where Paige used to pretend to work while scrolling Instagram. The house was a mausoleum. Cindy hadn't spoken to me since the night I shut the system down for good. Not out of anger, at least not the loud kind. It was worse than that. Her silence was precise, surgical, like she was saving words for someone else. Paige stayed in her room. Occasionally I'd hear her pacing, or crying. She tried to restart the back-end platform herself once. I saw the login attempt, but she didn't have the root access. Never did. I watched her fail in real time, one 403 error after another. Ethan was worse. He paced the living room for hours, one hand in his hair, the other glued to his phone. Client calls, partner calls, desperate half-promises trying to salvage a brand he didn't build. By the third call, I heard the panic in his voice. "No, I'm telling you, it's a server-side issue. We're working on it." Yeah, it's temporary. Promise." His voice cracked. He was lying, and they knew it. They were all starting to know. Around 11 a.m. Cindy finally cracked. She came downstairs, hair done, makeup subtle, damage control mode. "Can we talk?" I didn't look up from the book I was reading. "Sure," I said. "We're overdue." She sat across from me at the dining table. The same one where we used to eat together. The same one I assembled the night after we moved in. She had picked it, but I built it. Her voice was steady. "They're scared. I'm not surprised. They're angry. I'm not either." She swallowed. "I told them they crossed a line. I told them what they said about Josh. What they said about you. It was wrong." "And when did you say that?" I asked. "Before the toast? Or after the accounts went dark?" Her silence was my answer. I closed the book, set it on the table. "You stood there, Cindy, when they gave that speech, when they raised their glasses, when they toasted another man for what I built. You didn't stop them. You didn't defend me. I was trying to keep the peace. You chose quiet over truth," I said. "Now you're living with both." Her eyes brimmed. I didn't flinch. "Michael," she said, her voice small. "They're just kids. They're adults when they want my money," I said. "Children when they want forgiveness." She looked away. "They need help. They needed a father," I said. "They had one. They just didn't want him." Another silence. Then the breaking point. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. And there it was. The admission. She had no power left. For 16 years, I deferred to her judgment, her parenting style, her boundaries. I paid for her children's lives like they were my own. And in return, she had offered me the illusion of authority, but never the real thing. She let me pay the bill but never allowed me to collect the debt. I leaned forward, hands folded. "I want nothing," I said. "Not anymore." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done." "With what?" "With all of it." I stood and walked upstairs. That afternoon I called a lawyer. Quietly, efficiently, no threats, no theatrics, just the beginning of a clean separation. The house? In my name. The cars? Registered to me. The company? Fully mine. What they called ours was legally never theirs. I wasn't angry. I wasn't vengeful. I was done pretending. That evening I sent 3 messages. To Ethan, "Your access has been permanently revoked. The brand is being restructured. You will receive a formal notice regarding the business split. There will be no severance. You earned none." To Paige, "Your consulting contract has been voided. Please remove the brand from your socials. A cease and desist will follow if you continue to claim ownership." To Cindy, "We'll speak with lawyers. You will be treated fairly. But understand this, your silence was complicity. I'm reclaiming my name. You may keep yours." No one replied, but I know they read them. By Sunday the world had caught up. Old clients started contacting me directly. One even offered to buy the platform outright after hearing about internal issues. I declined. I didn't want to sell. I just wanted them out. The product still worked, of course. Flawless. My code didn't break. Only the people did. That night, I made myself a drink. Sat on the back porch. Looked out at the yard I landscaped by hand. Every stone, every light fixture placed by me. Cindy had picked the colors. The kids gave opinions. But the labor, that was mine. And now, I was the only one left to enjoy it. They were all inside, quiet, waiting, not for redemption, not for forgiveness, for rescue. But I wasn't coming. Because here's what no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't feel like a knife. It feels like erosion. Slow, invisible, a quiet wearing down of the soul. You don't notice until the foundation collapses beneath you. That's what they did. They eroded me, piece by piece, year by year. Thankless smiles, conditional respect. 1,000 silent corrections to remind me I wasn't the real dad. And I endured it, because I believed love was enough. That presence would earn recognition. That sacrifice meant something. I was wrong. And now they would live in the truth I carried for 16 years. A week later, the letters arrived. Legal language, business restructuring, ownership consolidation, a quiet erasure of their claims. Ethan tried one last time. He left a note on my desk. You said you were building this for all of us. I guess that was a lie too. I folded it. Didn't reply. Because I had built it for all of us. That was the tragedy. That was the crime. I gave them everything. And in return, they called me invisible. Now they were right. The car Ethan drove was gone by Monday. Towed. Reclaimed by the bank after I canceled the auto debit. Paige's phone line went dark. I shut off the family plan. She called Cindy in tears, screaming. Cindy didn't speak to me that night. She just cried. In the guest room. Not our bed. I didn't comfort her. Because comfort is for family. Not for those who stood by while you were buried alive. And then 2 weeks later, Josh showed up. Not at the house. At my office. I recognized him instantly. Same arrogant lean. Same empty charisma. He didn't knock. Just walked in like he owned the space. Like he'd been summoned. They told me you're cutting them off, he said. I'm reclaiming my life, I said. He nodded. Didn't sit. You're going to regret this. I smiled. No, I said. You are. Because now they were his burden again. His responsibility. His phone calls. His credit score. He didn't stay long. Cowards never do. And then the final message. From Cindy. Quiet. Cold. I think we should separate. The kids don't feel safe anymore. I didn't respond. But I sent my lawyer a copy. She filed the papers that Friday. I kept the house. The company. The quiet. They kept their fantasy. And so here I am. Alone. But whole. For the first time in years, no one is asking for my labor without offering dignity in return. No one is toasting my erasure. No one is asking me to explain my presence. They're gone. And I'm free. So now I ask you, was I wrong? Was I cruel? Or was I simply the final debt collector in a house that lived on borrowed truth? Would you have endured it? Would you have stayed? Or would you, like me, have finally stood up and walked away?